Hi, and welcome to A Day in the Garden with Christina Linder. Today I thought perhaps we would talk a little bit about the mysteries of buying plants. Many of you, of course, are seasoned gardeners and you bought lots of plants and you understand all about these different things, but not everybody has that experience yet. So when you're buying plants, there's a few things to pay attention to and be mindful of. And plants usually come with some kind of a information tag, and here we have one for a hydrangea called Little Hottie. And Little Hottie is a panicle hydrangea. It shows on here, and then it tells you a little bit about the exposure, the light requirements. So Little Hottie likes full sun to part shade. It'll give you a size, so it says height 3 to 5 feet and width 3 to 5 feet. So that can be a little bit confusing and maybe slightly misleading, because those numbers indicate how big that plant could be if it was planted in the ground and you gave it 10 years and you never took a pair of pruners to it. So very often you can certainly shape most plants to be smaller with just regular maintenance. And then it gives you a hardiness zone. So this is a zone 3 to 8. And what does that mean? Well, the zones, every area in the whole Western world is assigned a zone, and that is to help guide you when you buy plants. It indicates how hot the plant can tolerate it and how cold it can tolerate it in the wintertime. So this is good from minus 40 Celsius to minus 12 Celsius. And then it also gives you some other information on here. It says it's drought tolerant and good for cutting. So that's excellent if you want to grow a cutting garden. There is also, of course, many other kinds of hydrangeas. And I have here also another card for another hydrangea called Bobo. And Bobo is also a panicle hydrangea, and these cards look a little bit different. So this is a petite shrub, so it stays a little bit smaller, one would assume. It says it can get to 0.76 to 0.9 meters tall, so smaller than 3 feet tall and wide. It gives you how much light exposure it needs, so 6+ hours. Now, if you gave it less than that, what would happen? Well, it might not bloom as prolifically, but typically, as long as you're giving it a decent amount of sunlight, it should be fine and quite happy. It flowers in summer. It's listed late winter and early spring for pruning. And it's adaptable to most well-drained soils. So it's a very versatile little shrub and very beautiful with white flowers. And here is another one. This is called a nemesia, and this is an annual in our area. And it says on here that it is an annual except in zones 10A to 11B, and it's hardy to 30 Fahrenheit, which is 1.1 Celsius. So if you live in a very warm climate where it never gets colder than that, you could grow this as a perennial, but in our area, not so much. It will tell you the size, so it's short, 10 to 14 inches tall, and water is normal. Water requirement is normal, so that means let it get slightly dry between waterings. Don't keep it too wet, and don't let it get too dry or it'll pout. And it says here for special features, and this is important: fall interest, deadheading is not necessary, and it needs good drainage. So make sure that all of your planters always have drain holes, crucially important, or you will not have the same results, the same good results as you could. Yeah, that's a really beautiful annual. And then I also have a Mexican feathergrass here, and it is a lovely soft grass. It has a flower that looks like blonde hair blowing in the wind. So if you imagine masses of this in a prairie kind of setting, it's very, very beautiful. And it says perennial grass. It forms a graceful clump of fine textured green leaves. And then it says it's great for mass plantings, so it's giving you a little bit of information regarding its uses. Flowers, and of course this is not a regular flower, this is a grass-like flower. Blooms in June to September. And then it gives you the mature size. Pruning, none necessary. Trim after flowers, so just tidy it up a little bit in the late fall. It is hardy down to -18 Celsius, which makes it a zone 7. And sun exposure, full sun is best. And well-drained soil. And water usage, little to regular. So keep it a little bit on the dry side is what it tells you. This is a fabulous grass, and if you remember Farrah Fawcett from the 80s, how her hair was just absolutely perfect and blowing in the wind, all blonde and gorgeous, that's exactly what this grass looks like. So that's a little bit of insight in how to read these plant cards. Figure out what your zone is if you don't already know, and pay attention to light requirements and water requirements of your plants. And you should have great success in your garden. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, follow, and share, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.